In this video, I'm going to share with you my recipe for these fluffy and creamy homemade mashed potatoes made entirely from scratch. And we're going to start off first with dicing our potatoes. I'm using 2 pounds of Yukon Gold potatoes. The reason I'm using Yukon Gold potatoes is they provide that safe medium, as in they're not too starchy compared to russet potatoes, but they're also not too waxy compared to red potatoes. And I prefer to cut them up into bite-sized chunks. I know there are some folks who like to cut them in the size of bricks, but what ends up happening, you'll end up having to cook the potatoes longer when you cut them into those big chunks. Now, some folks like to bake them, but ain't nobody trying to turn on the hot oven when it's 90 degrees outside, and ain't nobody got time to be trying to scoop out those potatoes from the skin once they're done baking. So I find doing it this way is a lot less tedious, and that's the way I'm going to do it in this video. So I have a 3-quart bowl, and I'm going to transfer those diced potatoes into this bowl. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to soak them for about 30 minutes to get rid of some of the excess starch and dirt. And then once I finish soaking them, see all that dirt in the bowl, what I'm going to do after 30 minutes is rinse them about 3 to 5 times to clean off any dirt that is still stuck onto the potatoes, and then drain them. So here I have a 3-quart saucepan. I'm going to transfer those potatoes into the saucepan, and then I'm going to fill up the saucepan with about 8 cups of cold water. It should cover the potatoes and leave about an inch of room above the potatoes. And then I'm going to warm the saucepan on medium-high heat until the water is boiling. You don't want to cook them on too high of a heat, because if you do, then the outside of the potatoes will cook before the inside, and thus they won't mash properly. And once the water is boiling, you do want to continue cooking them on medium-high heat while stirring occasionally. Now, this next topic is going to be very controversial, but I did not salt my water for the potatoes. I know professionals say it's best practice, and it makes sense if you're cooking, say, potato salad, because that salt will penetrate inside of the potatoes as they boil. But in this case, we're mashing the potatoes. First of all, you're wasting a ton of salt because most of that salt is going to remain in the water. But also, when you're mashing the potatoes, you're going to have the opportunity to season the potatoes once they're done. So I don't see what's gained from salting your water for mashed potatoes, but that's just my opinion. So I just tested the potatoes, and they are fork tender. They've been boiling for around 15 to 20 minutes. I'm using an electric stove, so cook time will vary slightly if you're using a gas stove. And I'm removing the potatoes from the heat, and I'm going to drain the potatoes using this colander here. And I'm going to ease those potatoes into the colander. And once we get those potatoes into the colander, I'm going to shake them around to get rid of all of that excess water in the potatoes. And now we're going to move on to mashing the potatoes. So I have a 3-quart mixing bowl here. I'm going to dump those potatoes into the mixing bowl. And you do want to move quickly at this step because you want the potatoes to be hot once we start combining the other ingredients. And I'm just going to give them a bit of a stir to break them up a bit. And once that's done, I'm going to bring over the potato masher. And it should take around 30 seconds, maybe 1 minute at the most, to mash them. Some folks will recommend using a hand mixer. Respectfully, they don't know what they're doing. All you're going to do is incorporate way too much air into the potatoes, and then they'll end up gluey and gummy. As long as you boil your potatoes properly, they should mash easily with the hand masher. And now I'm going to add 1/2 cup of heavy cream. Some folks like to use milk, but I find the added fat from the cream makes for richer mashed potatoes. I'm also adding 2 tablespoons of sour cream, which will give the mashed potatoes a tangy flair. And you want to ensure that both the sour cream and heavy cream are at room temperature. If you try to combine the cold dairy with the hot potatoes, you risk having them curdle and they won't blend properly. And you just want to gently fold them together until they're well combined. And once that's done, I'm going to move on to adding my seasonings. I have garlic powder, onion powder, rosemary, thyme, black pepper, iodized salt, and parsley. And once we get those seasonings in there, I'm going to, again, fold them together with the potatoes until they're well combined. And the exact measurements for the seasonings can be found linked in the description below. Now, butter is very tasty, and I know a lot of folks would like to dump a ton of butter into their mashed potatoes. In this recipe, butter is optional. You can certainly add 4 tablespoons of butter if you desire, but it's not required. These potatoes are so well seasoned that you won't even notice there's butter missing. And I'm going to be real, a lot of folks dump a bunch of butter into their mashed potatoes because they don't know how to season them properly. I'm just saying. And finally, for my shameless plug, if you're looking for some gravy to complement these mashed potatoes, check out my page for my homemade beef gravy recipe. You're going to love it with these mashed potatoes. And there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you would like to see more of these recipes, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.